My guest today is Paula Morand, and Paula is a leadership building, revenue boosting, strategy expanding keynote speaker, author, and visionary. This dreaming big and being bold expert brings her vibrant energy, humor, and wisdom to ignite individuals, organizations, and communities to lead charge, change, growth, and impact in a more bold fashion. Sounds pretty good to me, Paula. How are you today?
I'm so good, and it's really great to be on your show today. So thanks for having me.
Well, I love your motto, dream big and be bold. I mean, that's what it's all about really today. If you dream big and you are bold, you should have success. So let's see if you can have our listeners who can learn something from you today from your book. Now, you have a book called Bold Courage, and it's been called the powerful and most thought-provoking book that's ever been read and the best business book of the year. So tell us a little bit about what it's about, why you wrote it, and so forth.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm really honored uh, that you had me on the show here. I want to talk about this. It's really interesting, and Gail, you probably have seen this too. So, I've been working with people for almost 2.5 decades. A lot of professionals and entrepreneurs, and just people wanting to get out of their own way and move beyond barriers. And there's this past year, I was actually the last 2 years, I've been really challenging my own self on the whole idea of what my perspective looks like. And I think right now in our day and age that we're in, there's a real layer of fear, not only societal wise, but I think within individuals, we see that coming through more present in, mental health issues and physical ailments and the fear around finances and decline and all of that. So when my publisher asked me if I would put a new book to market last year, I thought, what would be a great thematic conversation to have and really start to cultivate some curiosity around how can we get out of our own way and face maybe some of these things. So I decided to focus on what would bold courage look like. So I anchored the book kind of in three ideas, and every reader probably will walk away with these three messages. The first one is assurance that all of us, should we choose, can create lasting change in our lives and be happy and satisfied without abandoning who we are and living with no regrets, as you would say, right?
Correct, yes.
The second one would be around maybe getting some strategy, because not knowing how to take action often leaves us in a land of indecision, and that creates chaos. So with some strategy, that usually will help us to get on a journey of mental and emotional expansion, if you will, that will help to guide us to the larger life that we so desire to live in whatever capacity or focus that might be, whether it's relationships or business or career or health, whatever. The third one would be is knowledge, in knowing that if we can take life's journey in a more bold fashion, we do have the capacity to overcome our own doubts and insecurities that might be threatening to keep us from owning what I call our awesome. And that just means, when is it time that you're going to step into your best capabilities, use the skills and the gifts that you have, and thrive in the areas that you're good at, rather than staying in this place of self-loathing, deprecating conversations with yourself that continually hold you back and create the same patterns of, perceived failure.
Well, I have a question to ask you. You said that, you've been working with people for about 2.5 decades and so forth, and all the questions they ask each other and so forth. But I am finding that as women specifically grow into their 40s and 50s, they start questioning a lot of things about themselves and the direction they're going, and if they've lived life to the fullest, and so forth. And you're talking about this kind of reminds me of that. And I know throughout your book you bring out the word awesome again and again, and you've built a recurring theme around it. Were you worried that the word was overused? And do you find that women get to a certain point in their life when they question all that has come before them? I mean, I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Oh, well, I did kind of think around that because you are right. It's probably one of the most overused words. However, just because a word's used a lot, it doesn't mean it's a bad word or even an ineffective word. Actually, I did do some research, and the most used word in Canada, where I'm from, is mom. And who would want to change that, right? So all that to say, we maybe my kids would want to change that sometimes, actually, but we have lots of words that work our way into our colloquial language, and they sit in that dictionary for a while, and then they work their way back to Oxford. And I think it's really time for the idea of awesome to maybe get the respect that it deserves, because it starts it starts with that awe of being truly inspired and standing in a place of wonder. And I believe that we don't stop because we're so darn busy with our lives and getting stuck in our head, especially women in their 40s and 50s, of what they, cannot remember at that time, or just being so overwhelmed with the responsibility of life. I think quite earnestly, if we could just stop and be in awe and find some wonder in who we are and what the capacity that we have within ourselves to do, and maybe take stock of what we've already done, we'll really realize that we are worthy of so much, and we can stand in our own confidence that who we are is enough.
Well, that's true, and we do have to come to that belief. I think in the book, in Bold Courage, and I hope I don't issue a spoiler alert here, but one of the topics and tools that you offer people is what's called a Time Capsule Blueprint, and you get them to look at a historical timeline of happiness in their lives. Can you explain to me your philosophy behind that?
Oh, for sure. So every year, my husband and I go on a retreat for the year. We just started it many years ago and just lock off for a week. And usually within that time away together, we kind of do some type of exercise. And it was a number of years ago where we just came up with this idea, and honestly thought it would be like an hour exercise just for fun for us to do. And it turned into a full week of really digging in, each of us quietly by ourselves thinking. And the Time Capsule Blueprint, how we broke it out is really going in 5-year quadrants of our life. So very simply, put a column down one side. The first column would have 0 to 5, 6 to 10 years of age, 11 to 15, and keep going up through the years. And then the other side was really just a mind dump of what comes to mind, because most of us aren't very good with timelines and exact dates and years. But within this capture of 5-year span, what do you remember and what comes to the forefront? So the first time we did it, for the first hour, we just started dumping out all of our memories of what came to mind. And as we took time to ponder and kind of chew on things and realize that we were being intentional about trying to fill this out, it was interesting as time went on what new memories and ideas came to each one of us. And by the end of our week together and keeping this kind of exercise at the forefront, we were both blown away, absolutely amazed by how much each one of our journeys of life had been so full and filled with so many things, not only the ups, the downs, but the realizations. And we were both so empowered when we walked away from it, and have since used it with clients and walked them through of this very simple exercise, but profound experience of actually taking the time to reflect on what your life has been. And it really helped to set the stage for envisioning where we want to go forward.
So you and your husband took this retreat together, which is very unusual. I mean, usually when people go away on a retreat, they either go with a kind of a mastermind group or a group that's not family. So did you do this exercise together, or did you do it separately? And what conclusions did you come to?
Well, it's interesting. We worked together for years, so this was something that we did for one another to make sure that we reconnected. We no longer do work together, but what started out as a couples exercise actually turned into an individual experience. And even though we had shared experiences, the way we viewed it and the way we were remembering things turned into our own individual journey. And I think as we were both discussing, because we're both, in a role of counseling and coaching people in our own respective manners, we realized that it was a really important exercise, not only for us, but for our kids and for our clients to use to remember of the value that we bring to society, the value that we bring to our lives and to the lives of others. But learning to stand in and give yourself a break to understand and see that life is a journey and it's never perfect and it's usually messy. But you can start to see threads of where recurrent things start to come up, and maybe you can start to make decisions to shift some of those behaviors or the way that you're seeing things. So it's very interesting. And, that's what happens. We'll have an idea and start things at times in our lives, and then it evolves and we pivot and we shift it. And this is one of those ideas that started as one thing, but then evolved into a very personal, transformative experience.
Wow. Well, I know you mentioned something about some tragedy, and you said that part of your philosophy, because of your own personal experience of overcoming tragedy before you started on your life of entrepreneurship and motivating others, was because of that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I was in my 20s, I married. I married a gentleman that we had a great life. He was a hotel manager, specialized in managing resorts, and we lived a great life. And then one day I gave birth to my first child, and when he was 9 months old, I got a call on the phone and a screaming employee on the end of the line, and she was screaming, saying, "Is your husband going to kill me? Is he going to kill me?" And all of a sudden, chaos ensued in my life, and found out that my husband was committed to the psych ward with schizophrenia and was in psychosis and completely snapped. And at that moment, my life as a 26-year-old had changed and never was the same again. And so very quickly, I learned by force that I had to figure out how to do life, because I married someone older than I was and he handled everything, and suddenly he wasn't there anymore, and he didn't recover. He ended up committing suicide, and I remember early on in those days of having to make a decision, because I was responsible for my son's life and raising him, and I had to kind of have like my own reality discussion to say, listen, are you going to choose to be the victim in the situation, or are you going to be the victor? And if you're going to be the victor, it doesn't mean pretending that life's okay all the time. It just means you're going to say and make, actions that are going to be for the best life possible that you can manage right now, and just keep moving forward. And then, so that's what I did. And that's pretty much the mindset that I have had since, that even though I may grieve, and I still do, and have those moments of not feeling my most confident, I do know without a doubt that I have the capacity within me to make the decision, and I have the choice to think positive things, make decisions that are life-giving to me, and do the best that I can despite, whatever the situation might be. And I think sometimes, when we get into situations in our life when they are so chaotic, they are so far out of our realm of